Welcome back to our show, your show, Let's Talk Stocks. In studio with us this morning is Miss Amashika Lorne, and of course, she's here to tell us all about her journey on following her passion and making it into a business. Welcome to the show, Amashika.
Thank you so much for having me. It feels good to be back.
Fabulous in pink today. Must be fabulous.
Listen, we are in the month of May, which in Jamaica is celebrated as Child's Month. And of course, you have to be vibrant, you have to be bubbly. And so I've ditched my black and those darker colors to now be vibrant throughout the month of May for the children.
Exciting. Amashika, talk to us about this journey that you're on. It's not very often that persons get to follow their passion and turn it into a business and then gets all the fun enjoying it while making useful contribution to children and to the country as a whole.
So I've always been one to work with children. When I was a child, when I was a teen, even when I became an adult and started going to university in terms of giving back, it's something that's quite nurtured within me. My parents taught, my mommy is still a teacher now, principal of a school. So I remember even when I was at prep school, I loved my dance teacher at the time. So I would mimic her. I would line up the girls on the days we didn't have rehearsals, and I would line them up and I'm like, okay, point your toes. And I would like mimic all my favorite teachers to get it right, because as a group, I wanted everybody to get things right, being a cheerleading captain, being a swim coach, while in high school, synchronized swimming coach. So I've always loved working with my peers, teaching so that we can all achieve and do well as a group. And so it's nothing new to me. And I love doing a lot of work in my community as well. But it came to a point of, okay, you're doing all of this volunteerism, but you're not earning. So I had to take a step back from that. Like when I was in university and started to think about, okay, wow, how do I monetize? How do I monetize? But at that time, you don't really know. So I had to go into corporate to earn, to be able to sustain a lot of the projects. And then I was very fortunate to be able to now ideate and say, I can now give back, work with children who I love so much, and have a lot of fun. In 2015, I'd taken a trip overseas and I went to China. And I remember just watching the tour guide, and she's just reeling off all of this information. You could tell that it was her side job. It was a little hustle. But I was like, wow, she is so bored, but she's sharing so much information about this section of her country. And I thought, I couldn't do this for Kingston and St. Andrew, but it inspired me. I said, when I get back home, I'm going to do something that I can pour a bit about Jamaica into the next generation while I'm also learning on that journey as well. And so that was the impetus. So when I came home, I got to work, and
And this is what we're seeing. Chat to me in color.
Chat to Me and Color. So that's how Chat to Me and Color was born, in terms of getting the inspiration. I was an art student in school. I did art at the CSEC level. So I could draw, I could color, I could paint. However, in terms of having a little job now and then doing all of this work, it would have been very time consuming. So I did all of the creative direction, how I wanted the images to be done, doing the research, and then I got a graphic artist to work with me. And one of the things is, being a creative, I understand the struggles. So it's like I would save up a little bit of my money and I'd pay for 2 images for him to illustrate. I save up my money, you know, and it was on that, as opposed to making him do all of the images and then I couldn't pay him. I didn't want to have that kind of reputation. So it took a while for the book to come to fruition, but I knew that I was going to do something durable, something that I was passionate about, and something that I really loved. So the book right now, Chat to Me and Color, it has 20 Jamaican proverbs, riddles, and ring games that are strategically paired with an illustration that kind of gives context clues about aspects of Jamaican culture. So I definitely want to say big up to Wayne Powell. He was my illustrator on this project. But also, I've decided I didn't just want it to be a regular Jamaican themed coloring book. I went to UWI and I studied international relations, and that's under the Faculty of Social Sciences. There's another faculty called Humanities and Education. And I didn't know there was a department called the JLU, the Jamaican Language Unit. It was when I started to research and looking at the Jamaican language. Who are some of the people who were advocating for it? What has the writings been like? You know, Caroline Cooper, Professor Farquharson, who is there now. You know, just various people who have been doing research. And I stumbled upon the work that was done in the Bilingual Education Project.
Okay.
This was a project done in about 2004. They went into some primary schools, especially children in grade 3 and 4. They were teaching them both in English, as we know it, as well as in Jamaican. And they are putting forward that you should name a language after the people.
Yes.
Italy, Italian. English, for the English, for example. Spain, and you have Spanish. So they're putting forward that we don't bastardize or continue to, you know, hold the language that we know now and say, oh, Creole or Patois, but to understand that it is a language of its own.
It is, just like how Miss Lou says it. If they are derived, then we derive too.
That's right. We derive to same way. And it's for us to take ownership of this and the journey that we are on. So I started doing some research, looking at how the implications of that project and how it allowed the boys and the girls to be performing better, especially from these lower income families. And I said, you know what, I'm going to give some energy to this body of work that was done. I know it's a very small unit and they work really hard, but there's so much more that can be done. And I said, you know, this is my small contribution in terms of continuing that kind of advocacy and sharing with Jamaicans at home and abroad a way to standardize and codify the language.
Before we go into the Jamaica Language Unit and all the work that they've done and so on, what has the reception been to this book? You launched it when? In 2019?
It was in 2019, the
then
October.
We had COVID.
Right. So I was working in corporate at the time, and there are certain corporate jobs where, listen, we call it the OND period, October, November, December. You do brand plans for the next year in that period. So it's really rigorous while you have events doing, you know. And I said, I'm giving so much more to the people them work. I'm giving so much more to somebody else. And I say, if this is going to tire me out like this, I have to make a commitment to me. I have to start getting back to my projects. So I was saving up and I said, I'm going to drive through and I'm going to get this book done by 2019. So in October, we were able to print, we were able to launch, and it was such a beautiful moment for me. I felt so happy. My parents supported me, my nieces, because they were also a part of the journey in terms of being my little testers, and I'm seeing what was the difficulty they were having, how long they were taking with the pages, was it appropriate for children who were 6 to 8. So we launched in 2019, and then there was COVID in the March of 2020, and I remember I had a whole school tour planned out. The school started to respond to me, and when COVID started, I was just like, no, all of my plans are crumbling. But I was able to pivot in a way that I started doing some online sessions. I had a beautiful partnership with the Jamaica Observer, because on Thursdays they have a section called the Learning Corner, and I was able to print some images there and encourage children to color with Aunty Amma. So the moniker of Aunty Amma kind of started there, but I didn't walk into it fully yet. But I saw some research that came from UNESCO talking about the state of Jamaican children and how so many of them were now sad, so many of them were starting to feel depressed, so many of them were bored. And so I launched a Let's Get Coloring campaign, and I was doing sessions online, partnered with even some charities, and I was doing things across Jamaica, partnered with a company overseas as well in a section of Florida. I don't want to say South, and then I mix it up to CNW. And, you know, they all really gave me a lot of support in terms of sharing the content and the book with other people who are not just on Jamaican soil, but it has been great, especially in the diaspora. Because what happened in the years of COVID, people who were planning to do the summer trips with the kids, people who were traveling for reunions, or even the Christmas, there was no more traveling.
No travel.
So it was like bringing home to them. And also the children who never came to Jamaica before. So they were of Jamaican descent, living overseas. This was a lovely way to package information that you and I may know in a way that the child can now absorb it. Because they're in the world of watching all these cartoons online, but we have to look at how we package information for them to really absorb it. So making it into a coloring book was just the first step, and it has been such a joy.
You know, COVID has done some terrible things, but we have to agree that it has caused so many business to pivot, as the word we use now, and the new normal that we see evolving is that there are a lot more diversification of how we look at businesses generally, and certainly in the creative sector that you guys have really taken off. This sector is looking much different now.
It is different. So I know a lot of people were hurt during the pandemic, especially as creatives, because even just to film movies and that sort of thing, you have to use a set and, you know, just trying to keep everybody safe. So there was a big halt and a bit of disruption. But that was also the birth of what TikTok is today, and people doing all of these skits by themselves in their own little confinement and being one character, and then you change and you're another character. So big up people like, you know, Julie Mango, etc. So there was also room for creativity, but that is what life is about. You will always have hurdles and wars and fighting, and we know crime and different things, but that's what your creativity is supposed to allow you to do. How do I keep surviving? How do I, you know, push forward? So there were other things that came, and even Netflix, there were more people subscribing to these types of platforms because they were now home and consuming more content. So the whole movie theater, going to the movies, that has changed.
Absolutely.
So there were some opportunities now for people to consume on an individual level, and for entertainers to now create content for them. And
opportunity for you now to not just have a book out there, but have workshops and online sessions and teaching and really bigging up the Jamaican language.
Absolutely, and that has been a part of it, because, you know, it is being said that the Jamaican language is spoken, but it's not written. So we had to find ways now of, okay, it's one thing for us to be speaking it as adults, but how do we share it with the younger generation and guide them through this process of learning and understanding? So in working with the JLU, they're putting forward and advocating for Jamaican to be a national language alongside English. Not one over the other, but for it to be alongside English and for it to be codified. And so that's what I've also been pushing.
And guess what, Amma? That's what we're going to talk about in the second part of this interview. How you get Westmoreland and Hanover to be on the same chat with Kingston and St. Andrew. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers, it has been exciting. I can't believe the time ran out already. But that's how it is when you're chatting Jamaican. As we always say here on Let's Talk Stocks, we give you information to make better financial decisions. Come back with us tomorrow morning at 9 when we'll have part 2 of this wonderful chat with Amashika Lorne, chatting about her project, Chat to Me and Color. Join us tomorrow at 9.